Hey there guys, it's Miss Birds again, and today we are going to be continuing our 1-point perspective drawing. So after our last session, you should have drawn 5 boxes total. So the 2 that we did during demonstration, and then I gave you the assignment of practicing your 1-point perspective by creating a box above the horizon line, which I have here, below the horizon line, which I've added here, and then also I told you you could put your last box wherever you wanted to. So for me, I actually put mine on the horizon line so you could see what that would look like. Remember, the horizon line is going to be where the sky meets the land, right? So these boxes are going to look a little bit more like they're coming forward and they're down. This one's going to look a little bit more eye level since it's right on the horizon line. And these are going to look like they're floating in space. Now, we went over 4 different elements of design already, okay? We went over line, we went over shape, we went over form, and we went over value, okay? So we've created our lines, right? We've used line on our horizon line. We've also used line to create our boxes. We used shape initially to draw what our form was gonna look like. Okay, we made it into a form by adding more lines, so now they look more three-dimensional, like cubes or rectangular 3-dimensional forms. And now we're gonna add some value to it to really make it stand out and look 3-dimensional, okay? And remember when we talked about value, we talked about the idea of highlights and shadows, right? So area where forms are being hit by light, which would be the highlight, and then areas where they're darkest or furthest away, from the light, and that would be our shadows, okay? So today we're gonna be putting in that effect into our 1-point perspective drawing. Now, the first thing that you need to do is to determine where your light source is gonna be, okay? I am going to put my light source about, I'm gonna say right here, okay? So you can draw a little circle, to kind of give you like a sun symbol. You can make it into anything you really want. Generally, when you're drawing, you're not gonna be drawing anything on your paper, but for us, since we're just practicing, this is just gonna be a nice little reminder that this is where our light source is coming from, okay? So my light source is gonna be coming from the upper right-hand side and shining down onto my boxes. Now, anything that's going to be furthest away from the light source is going to be your darkest area on your boxes, okay? So I'm going to start with this box down here, okay? If my light is coming this way, I know that the light is shining on top of the box here and also on this side, okay? So these 2 sides. So the side that should be the darkest is this side here, right? Because it's technically in front of the light source. So everything behind on this back area is going to be having light touch it, and this front area isn't. So that should be our darkest area. So I'm just going to go in and kind of fill in this little shape here to be the darkest area. And a good trick when you're coloring is to always go one direction first, and then to make it darker, go in the opposite direction, right? So I started coloring in my shape vertically, and now I'm going horizontally to cover in all those little spaces that I've missed. So there we go. That is the darkest area, okay? The shadow of where this form is going to be, right? Because it's furthest away from our light source, okay? Now, I would say that the way this box is positioned, and because this light source is so further over, that most of the light is probably going to be hitting on this side rather than on this top. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to shade the top just a little bit, okay? I'm going to make sure that it's not as dark as what I just colored in. Okay, so it should still be a little bit shaded in, but not as dark as this one. Okay, and there we go. So we're gonna do that for all of our boxes. So we're gonna look at the areas where the light is furthest away, and that's going to be our darkest portion. And then wherever the light is hitting the object, that's going to be the lightest. We'll just keep that the white of the paper. So if I'm looking at this box here, okay, I would say that this square here is furthest away from where the light is, okay? Even though this one, we have the front of it, it will still also be dark, but probably not as dark as this edge, okay? So I'm gonna go through and going to add in that darkness. Okay, so remember, wherever the light is not touching, okay, the area that's furthest away from our light source is gonna be the darkest area that we have. Okay, our second darkest area will still be where the light is not really touching as much, and that will be this edge as well. Okay, even though I can't see this side of my box, I know that's still probably the lightest area from where the sun is hitting. And I could even put a little bit of value, a little tiny bit of value on top here, even though I'm leaving those other spaces darker. Okay, so your assignment for today will be to find your light source or determine where your light source is going to be in your image, okay, in your drawing, and then you are going to go through and you're going to shade the areas where it is the shadows, okay, so the area that's furthest away from our light source, and you're going to leave the areas that are where the light is touching the object, the white of the paper or the lightest area. Okay, so that is your assignment for today, and hopefully you were able to finish your previous assignment by going back and adding those 5 boxes onto your page. If you haven't finished that step first, you want to make sure you finish the step of creating your boxes first before you go in and identify where you want your light source to be and what areas you are going to shade in. And there you go. That is 1-point perspective, shading and adding value to our boxes to make them look more realistic.